Welcome back, everyone. If you have seen the previous video where we went through the app architecture and then how app is going to talk to the server and access the data from the API, and this is the .NET sample API that we will be working with. If you have already downloaded the repo, which had a link in the previous video, I'll put the link in this video as well. You can open it. I'm using Rider, but you can use your own choice of editor, either VS Code or Visual Studio, whichever you're comfortable with. So just run and you will see the API is showing the Swagger. If you are ever in a situation where you have API and you have similar Swagger, a link, you can go to the schemas and look at the different models that are exported from the API. You can click on these ellipses here to show the different types, and it will tell you, okay, what is the type of this one and whether this can be nullable or not. So this is the Swagger where you can see the models, and with the Swagger you can also go ahead and try out the API before even actually writing in your code, so that when you look at your code, then you can see that what is returning and what it is not returning. In our case, when we are making the call, it's not returning anything, but it's a successful call. We are going to build the app, we are going to create new to-dos, and then we'll see how we can build the whole create, read, update, and CRUD operations for this using SwiftUI. So let's get started. Let's create an app. We are not going to use core data, so I'm going to say we will use Swift data in future. So that's why I'm adding the Swift data already into the app, and we will host it into CloudKit as well in future. So select those two options because we are going to add offline support for the app later on. So better is to add these options right now. So I have got the app created. You can see that there's so much stuff that is already in there, which we are going to get rid of because we are not going to use any of it. And then we are going to delete all these. We don't want model context for now, anything, so just delete all of it. And we're not going to create any containers. And we are not going to use item as well. So we have the bare bone of the app. So we have the bare bone of the app. There are errors, and then now we need to show something here, which we are going to just show for now my tasks, so that it stops complaining about all the errors in the app, and hopefully it should. Let's choose a simulator for now, and you can see that it's showing you my tasks. Now we are going to use MVVM as architecture for the app, and for doing MVVM we need to have a model, a view model that we use along with our views. So we have views here, so you need to structure your app accordingly so that you know where all your domain related stuff lies. So we'll create a new group here which we'll call tasks, and under that we will create a new one which will be tasks list. And in here I'm going to create a SwiftUI view which will be my tasks list view. And then next item I'm going to create is my tasks list view model. So we got the views, we got the view models, and the next thing we need is model. When you are creating an enterprise level app, you want to make sure that you modularize your app from the start. You don't want to wait until you have built your whole app. We are going to try and modularize our app using Swift packages, and we'll see how we can create different components of the app, of our app architecture, like models, infrastructure, and our core libraries using Swift package. And we are going to create a package which will call models, so that where we have all the models in that one package. So what we are going to do is we are going to add a new package, models. We are not going to create any Git repository or anything. So once we have the package created, you will see something like this. And in this one, we have source models here. So I'm going to call it task. And we don't need to import anything. So it will be a struct task, right? So we got our task. And if you remember from the API that we just had a look at, we have task model and it has ID, title, description, and is completed. And we need same properties here, ID string, and where what was the other one, title. I'm not gonna call it title. I'm just gonna call task name. Then we have our description, and we are going to have, I'm not going to call is completed, I'm going to say is done, and we are going to call it a boolean. So those are the properties of my task where I know that description can be nil. So we'll set that to an optional. We always need to have a name for our task and ID. We will be evolving these models over the time, and we'll be using these in our code. So this is our package. We can build the package here, and we can see everything is fine before we go back into our code. So the package is built. I can close this one. So now I have added the package, but it's not showing up in my project explorer. So how do I add that? So we have to go to the finder, and you can see that I can see a package called models here, and it has a package.swift, source, and unit test. And then I can just drag and drop into my project, and it should show up as a package. And you can see all the details, and we have models, and our task model is there. So this is how you can create a package for your models. It's always a good idea to create like a root view, where you will initialize all your stuff related to your app. So I'm just going to create another SwiftUI view, which I'm going to call a root view, which will give us a place where we initialize our app code. And I'm going to replace my app with a root view, and in the root view I'm going to call content view. You don't want to pollute your app code too much, because you want to keep your code clean. You don't want to add all the stuff to your app, all your container initialization. If you're using Firebase, your Firebase initialization. Now we need to decide what kind of navigation hierarchy we need in our app. The tasks app, it looks simple, like we have one view where we list tasks, and then you can go into detail. But you can think of so many things within a task app. You can have your list of tasks, you can have your reports, you can have more settings of your app. You manage your themes, manage your localization of your app, manage light mode or dark mode, that kind of stuff. So these are all things you need to think before you start creating your app, whether you want a tab navigation or you just want a one view where you can manage everything. But it's always a good idea to think. For our app, we are going to use a tab navigation. So we'll add the tab navigation to the app. As I mentioned already, that we always use a root view, So in the root view, we have a content view, and then in the content view is where add the tab navigation to our app. All right, so let's add tab view. And first one, I'm going to add tasks list that we have just created, my task list view. And then I'm going to give it a tag, my task list. And then I'm going to say tab item, and I need to give it a label. We're going to create a label, and it needs a title and an icon. If you ever see an iOS app, you have an image and a title. So our title will be my tasks, and then let's add an image as, so it's a check mark list, right? So let's have a look at the gallery. So to show the gallery, you can press Command Shift L, and then it will show up the gallery. And let's search for, I don't know, document, or we can say doc. Yeah, so we have quite a few many of them. Let's use the one, maybe this one, or maybe this one. So doc.plain text, copy that, and then we can paste it here, and then it should show up here. So you can see that we got one tab item. Let's add another one. The other thing that we want is reports. So let's create another group here that will have our reports, and then create another file, SwiftUI file, and then I'm going to call it reports view. So that's our second tab, and let's call it reports here. This is where our reports will go, and then create another group which is settings, and then we create another one which we are going to call settings view. So we got our all three views. So rename this guy to settings view. Right. And let's go back to the content view, and then I'm going to add another one here which will be reports view, and then I'm going to give it a tag reports, and then tab item will be a label with title will be text, so it will be called reports, and then I will have an image. So for reports, let's have a look what icon we need. I don't know, maybe chart. All right, so we got chart here. Maybe this one here, chart.bar, or whichever you like, you want to show up. Let's keep it simple and use chart.bar. So we got that. And then let's add the third view, which will be our settings view. And I'm going to give it a tag, which will be settings, tab item. Let's create a label again, and title will be text, and we are going to call it settings, and we have an image which will be for settings. Usually I use a gear kind of icon, which is something like this, or maybe something like this, just a gear, and then it should show up in our tabs. So we got 3 tabs for our app. So reports, settings, and gear tab. So preview is still catching up. Once it has, then we should have our 3 tabs. Forgot to add system name so that it knows that it needs to load a SF symbol. So after doing that, it should show the icons here. All right, so we got our icons and our tabs. And now whenever you are building something, like you can build your code, but always have a look at the code if you can refactor something in your code. You can do it immediately. That can make your life easier and also make your code look better. Or you can wait until you finish your functionality. Sometimes it's too late to do that. So always try to refactor and think of, you know, if I can make this code look much nicer and make use of something else. If we see here in the tab view, we have three views: first view, second, and third. And then we are setting a tag for them. And then we are setting a view which will be show up as the tab item. And whenever we are clicking on it, so this goes, so this is the destination for this tab, right? So let's have a look what we can extract out of it. So what I can do is I can create an enum, which is like my tab items. And I can say my tab first is going to be tasks, and then report, and then settings. So I got 3 tab items. Now I can add properties to this one. I can add a tag property, right, which will be of type string, and I can switch I can switch on self, and Xcode give me this option where it's going to create different cases for me. And here I can return tasks, and next one I can return reports, and next one I can return settings. So that's the tag, so I can use this one. Next thing I want to know is what's the destination for this one. So I can say destination, that will be a view. And when I do the switch again on self, and here I can return my tasks list view, and the next one I can return reports view, and for the next one I can return my settings view. Return here. It should be some view. We need this tab item for our tag, for our tab. So let's build a tab item. So tab item, and same, it will be any view. And let's say if Xcode will show me how to complete this time. No, it's not. So let's copy these guys again. And we can just copy this one from here. So that's my tasks tab. And then this is my reports. And then we have this one for our settings. What will happen if I remove these returns? Will it still work? Looks like Xcode is happy, so it means it works. So always see when you're writing code. So I was doing this intentionally to show you guys, whenever you're writing code, try and see the language features and see, you know, how the code is behaving, and is there something that you can do or you can remove and make it look better. So we got the tab item, so we got the destination, and we got the tag. So what I can do here, so I need to now show these multiple tabs from this enum. I can iterate over the enum values. So to do that, we need to make this enum case iteratable. So once we do that, and we need to make it identifiable. So for that identifiable, we need to add an ID. I can add ID here, right? this doesn't this kind of mix the features. There is one good thing that you can do in Swift is which is extensions. And whenever you are implementing any protocol on your types, try to create an extension for that type. That way your code for that interface you are trying to implement on your type stays in that extension, and keep it clean. So make it a habit, even though it's like a one line of code, so it will make you a habit. So you can write this one, which is okay, but the whole purpose of doing these videos is to telling you guys how you maintain your code and write a code that, you know, make sure that it doesn't get clunky over the time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to extend the tab items, and then I'm going to implement identifiable here, and then implement this here. You must be thinking why I didn't do this for CaseIteratable, because we are not doing anything for CaseIteratable. It's just that this enum needs to be conforming to this, you know, so that we can iterate over all the values of this tab. So let's have a look in our content view now and see how we can utilize it. So we have a tab view, so we can use for each. As you can see, why I had to make the enum identifiable, because the for each loop it accepts data, and the content, it has to be identifiable. So whatever we are trying to iterate over, it has to be identifiable. So we are going to say tab items dot all cases. We get this one because we have made our enum case iteratable, and once we do that, here we will get the tab item, and now we need to write this. So let's copy this one and put it here. So this one we can replace with tab item dot destination, and the tag we can then say tab item dot tag, and the tab item we can say tab item dot tab item, and we have the tab item. Let's see, let's rename this one so that it's not confusing for us. Item, and then we say sorry, you see I'm already getting confused, so let's say item here. And then there's one thing that I think we need to do is, because these are, you know, we are returning these views, we need to say some view, not any view, and then we need to add a special property wrapper which is at view builder. So when we are using view builder, we don't need to explicitly use return type. That's why XCode is explaining about it to us. So let's remove that because it's not explaining here, and come back to our code, and let's see. So this one has to be item, and hopefully Xcode should be happy with us now. We can say that our previewer is now showing our updated, but you can see that we can see now the more icon here because we have too many tabs in our tab viewer. So let's get rid of all these now because we don't need them, and hopefully our previewer should refresh now. Yeah, so you can see that now we have our 3 tabs here, and if I click on report, I can see reports view, and if I click on settings, and I can settings view. And now we can just move all these into a separate file. So let's create a new file. Let's call it app views. Oh, no, we are calling it tab items, right? So tab items, so that's a separate file, and let's go back and just copy this one and put it into the tab items. You might have to import some stuff. Yep. So we'll have to import SwiftUI here because all these property wrappers exist in SwiftUI library. So we have moved the tab items here. Let's go back to the content view and see if our code is still working. So let's refresh the previewer. All right, so we have the previewer running and we can see that we can still go to different tabs. So in this video, I have covered how you create SPM package to manage your models so that you keep them in a separate package and can be shared across different apps. We created different tabs and we went through the learning experience where how you manage your code and make sure your code looks clean, and how we went through creating a tab view with different views and then eventually creating an enum which we are using to show our tabs. So that's it for today. Happy coding, and I'll see you in the next video.